Welcome to the May the 17th, 1994 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie, as we bring you the history of Grand Prairie, Texas, and some of the people that are even causing that history to happen today. And we're delighted to bring you our 224th segment of It Happened, and we're very honored today. We're celebrating a little bit in advance with this taping of Armed Forces Day, which is scheduled to be May 21. And we're just real pleased to have the commander of Navy Dallas seated front and center today, Captain Rick Miller, and welcome back to the set, Captain Miller.
Thank you very much, Ruthie. It's great to see you again.
Yes, it's great to see you again, too. Always. Armed Forces Day does not seem just a year ago that we celebrated, right?
It certainly doesn't.
Well, it really doesn't. And your Executive Officer, Commander Bill Garrett, and we're delighted to welcome you to the set.
Thank you for having me today.
You bet.
My pleasure.
And I understand that your arm was twisted and you had a real long notice for this, but I'm so glad that you balance off our set very well here today, right?
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Let's get back to the man in charge, and we're going to talk about the wonderful things that have happened to our United States of America, because the armed forces have been in force and because they cared enough to give the very best. And we'd like for you, first of all, Captain Miller, to tell us just a little bit about yourself personally. We've done an interview with you before, but we may have a new viewing audience today that really are not acquainted with all of the illustrious things that have happened to you. So look out into your camera and just give us about a 5-minute interview of the real Captain Rick Miller.
All right, Ruthie. I graduated from the Naval Academy back in 1968. I spent a little time right after graduating playing on the first Olympic baseball team in Mexico City, which was a great thrill and honor for me. And then I went into naval aviation training, training to be a pilot. Completed that and started flying the A-7 Corsair, which many of you know was built here in Grand Prairie.
Yes.
I spent most of my career doing that before coming to Dallas. Now, on the way, I had several deployments to the Mediterranean. I spent most of my time on the East Coast, traveling up and down the East Coast from Norfolk, Virginia to Jacksonville, Florida, and with several stops into Atlanta, Georgia, of all places. This is my third command. I originally commanded, my first command was VA 205, an A-7 squadron located in Marietta, Georgia. My second command was Commander Carrier Air Wing Reserve 20, an Air Wing command headquartered at Jacksonville, Florida. And this is my third command, NAS Dallas. In the next few months, we'll be getting ready to move on to other challenges and let my relief come in, who is Captain Jim Cannon, be coming in July as my relief, and we'll be moving on to Washington, D.C., where I'll be going to National War College for 1 year. But that gives you an up-to-date little bit about my background.
Washington, D.C. to the War College. That sounds exciting.
Well, it certainly will be a different pace than we're doing right now.
Well, now that you're having to leave the Pharaoh ship of Navy Dallas, because you have a little city there, and you're almost a mayor or a governor or the Pharaoh, as we would like to call it. You have under your direction there just many different commands other than your naval experience. Would you like to elaborate on that?
And I think that's appropriate to talk about today, being Armed Forces Week or Armed Forces Day coming up on the 21st, is that we have many different parts of the military stationed at NAS Dallas. We have the Navy, of course, and naval aviation. We also have the surface Navy represented through a surface command, REDCOM 11. We have the Air National Guard, the Air Force component. We have the Marines, both ground forces, artillery units, and we have Marine Aviation and MAG 41. And we also have on the west side of the field, we have both the Army Guard and the Army Reserve flying helicopters primarily. But we are a joint base as such with the many different types of military activities located at Naval Air Station Dallas.
I think you would have the most rounded command of so many different entities. Armed Forces Day was just really cut and dried just for you, wasn't it?
Probably was. But I think that's the future of our military, Ruthie, is to have more joint commands. We have found out through the last several wars and evolutions that the military has been involved in, most recently Desert Storm, where jointness of military forces proved to be the winning edge. And so we've learned that we have to learn to work together and do things together. And when we do that, there's no one that can beat us, because we have, without a doubt, the finest military force in the world.
Wonderful. I'm going to get back with you in just a minute, but let's get a little bit better acquainted with Commander Bill Garrett. Bill, we'd like for you to look out into your camera and let those in video land know that you're a special young man, and give us a synopsis of your career. Would you do that?
Yes, ma'am, I'd be proud to. Like the skipper, I graduated from the Naval Academy a little bit after he did in 1975. I also had a career flying the A-7 Corsair II, built here in Grand Prairie. Very proudly, I might add. I also served on board USS Saratoga in USS Independence on the Air Wing 6 staff there. Was able to participate in both Grenada and Lebanon operations there as part of that Air Wing. Was in the initial group of FA-18 instructor pilots when the FA-18 was first brought to NAS Cecil Field in Jacksonville in VFA 106. From that point, I was selected for Training Administration of Reserves. Had a tour in flying the FA-18 and VFA 305 at Point Magoo, at which point I had the opportunity to serve with Captain Miller as his operations officer at Air Wing 20 at Cecil Field. And he saw fit to have me here, join him here in Dallas, which brings me here today.
Where is Cecil Field?
Cecil Field is in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay, all right. I knew you had mentioned Jacksonville, Florida, but I didn't get
There's lots of Jacksonvilles. This was
all right.
Jacksonville, Florida.
All right.
And now I'm serving as the NAS Dallas Executive Officer for Captain Miller.
All right, now, the executive officer, you aren't the Pharaoh or the mayor, but tell me what you do at Navy Dallas.
My main function is to assist the skipper in the day-to-day operations of the air station, Ruthie, and so I'm involved with all aspects of the air station, and from everything from spaces and office buildings to civilian personnel management. So I do my best to support the skipper in all of his endeavors.
In other words, if there's anything he ever wants to know how it's going to be done, he calls you and you find out or know, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
That's for sure.
That is for sure. And tell me about your tenure here. How long have you been at Navy Dallas?
I'm just about halfway through a 3-year tour, so
all right.
I've been here about 1.5 years and have about 1.5 years to go.
So you will be in the transition then when the new commander, Jim Cannon, comes on board and relieves Captain Miller.
Yes, ma'am.
That sounds wonderful.
And Bill has also worked for Captain Cannon before, so he's very fortunate.
This is a unique situation in that Captain Cannon relieved Captain Miller as the Air Wing 20 commander. So this is the second time in their careers that this has occurred, where Captain Cannon has relieved Captain Miller.
That is wonderful. That is really great. You didn't give us any about your personal background, where you were born. We've gotten that on Captain Miller previously, and we'd like to have that on a tape. Tell us where you about your parents and just something about the.
My parents were born in the Midwest, in Ohio and Indiana. I was born and raised in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And brought into the same house I was brought into when I came home from the hospital. I stayed in that house until I went to the Naval Academy in 1972.
1972.
So unique situation being in the military. You get to travel all different, lots of different locations. My father was a naval aviator in World War II, but had retired by the time that that, of course, that I was born. So I've had a different childhood than my family has, and having the opportunity to live in different areas, different parts of the country.
And do you live on base at Navy Dallas or in the surrounding territory?
No, ma'am. I live in Arlington.
In Arlington. And do you have a family? And would you document them if you do?
I'd be proud to. I have a loving and supporting wife, Bibi, and only her mother is allowed to call her Barbara.
Yes.
And I have 4 sons, James, Craig, Bill Jr., and a daughter, Emily, who's the youngest.
That's wonderful. What a splendid family. And I'm sure that some of them are going to be naval aviators in the future.
Well, I sure hope so. In fact, Captain Miller's son, who's graduating from Annapolis this year, has been a tremendous influence on my son, Craig, who is aspiring to go to the Naval Academy.
That's wonderful. All right, let's get back with Captain Rick Miller. We need to talk about that son that's graduating from the military, right?
We do.
From West Point?
Oh, no. No, ma'am. He's going to the Naval Academy, Ruthie.
All right.
And he graduates in May. I think that's next week, if I'm not mistaken. So he is selected to go into naval aviation, and he begins flight training in January of 1995.
Okay.
He will be stationed temporarily in the Washington, D.C. area, so we'll get a chance to see him following our relocation up there.
Yes.
We also have a wedding this summer where he is going to get married
All right.
in July in Seattle, Washington.
Now, this is your younger son because...
This is our older son.
This is the older son because Bo is the younger one.
Bo is at LSU, that's correct.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
Is he going to remain at LSU?
He is, yes. Bo will be joining us for all of these activities. As a matter of fact, he's going to be playing his trumpet in Scott's wedding. So we're looking forward to that.
That is great. And the wedding is going to take place when?
July the 9th in Seattle, Washington, and you're invited if you can come.
Oh, thank you very much. That is a far trek for me.
A far trek.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about on this history show that is 30 minutes long. We have a little bit more time coming up, I believe, on this segment. We have about 20 minutes left or so, so let's talk a little bit about Navy Dallas per se, shall we?
Sure.
All right. Navy Dallas has been located here, and you've just celebrated your 50th anniversary 2 years ago.
That's right.
You brought in the Blue Angels for a big celebration.
That's right.
What are we going to do as a blowout when we close Navy Dallas? Are we going to have another party?
I would hope that we would have another party. I certainly would pass that on to my executive officer.
Yes.
And for Captain Cannon coming in, that when it's time to to finally close the door on Navy Dallas, that there is a big celebration on the base and its history, because there is such a tremendous history with the base. And Ruthie, you've been such a big part of that. I think what I'd do right now, I'd like to do is present you with this picture that is from our Blue Angels. When the Blue Angel team was here, we had them sign one of their pictures over to you. It says Ruthie here. See that?
That does. Well, how very exciting.
Yeah, and that's, of course, the Blue Angels were here last November.
Yes.
And did such a fine job for us. The weather was a little chilly, but we had perfectly blue skies, and it was great to have them with us. But
well, this is a tremendous historical photograph. That is just wonderful with all their signatures. And
1993 team.
1993
that was
team.
here in November
Well, I accept that with great pride, and I'll probably brag to everyone in the world about receiving this. That is really wonderful, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome.
Let's put that aside and get back to our knitting as we were before this. I'd like to talk with you a little bit more about the mentor that both of you had to bring you into the service. And I'd like, first of all, for you to let everyone in Videoland know that you didn't think of being in the Navy all by yourself. There was someone that encouraged you, and who could that have been?
Well, probably goes back to my high school days. There were several friends of mine who were older than I was at the time, who elected, wanted to go to the Naval Academy and do that. I then met a graduate who I just happened to be dating his daughter at the time.
Yes.
And, but he came from a long line of military, Naval Academy graduates. His father was an admiral, etc., and he had 4 daughters, and so he sort of adopted me into his family.
I would think so. You were a good prospect.
I was a hot prospect, but
Yes.
I was not only perhaps for his daughter, which I didn't marry, who I didn't marry, but
Yes.
but to follow and go to the Naval Academy. And I think he probably is the one, because he was in naval aviation. He was the one who ignited my interest in doing that.
Would you name drop him?
What's that?
Would you name drop him?
His name is Larry Richardson, and as a matter of fact, at one time he lived here in the Dallas area and worked at LTV when it was LTV.
Yes.
So there's a connection to that. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that is amazing. I'm so glad I was delving into your personal affairs there to get his name. I think that's wonderful.
And he did. As a matter of fact, he and his family relocated from this area to my hometown in Maryland, Hagerstown, Maryland.
Yes.
He came directly from here.
Yes.
So that's quite a connection for the
That
history.
is some connection.
That's right.
All right, now let's get back to Commander Bill Garrett and let him talk about maybe some mentor that brought you into the service and why.
Well, that's very easy, Ruthie. But I absolutely was my father.
Yes.
Being a former naval aviator.
You would name him also.
Bud. Only his mom calls him Irwin, his parents. But it's kind of like the skipper. He has 2 initials and a nickname. And
Yes.
so, but my father, Bud, and it was absolutely primary influence in my seeking a military career, and particularly naval aviation. I can remember as early as 2nd grade, I was chartered to do a book report. And taking the path of least resistance, I went to the nonfiction, which was alphabetized, and went to the first book on the first shelf, and it was a book on Annapolis. And
that was a clue, wasn't
that
it?
was a real strong clue for me, and I really had it in my mind to go to the Naval Academy and to fly jets off aircraft carriers at a very early age. So I'm very, very fortunate to have the opportunity to live out that dream that I had as a child. So that's been very exciting for me.
All right, now we're going to turn the tables. Are you a mentor to anyone else? I'd like to know that. And what do you do for outreach to really sell the young people that you come in contact with on the good life of serving the Navy and the United States government?
Well, that's very easy in the Dallas area. The support that we feel for the military whenever we have the opportunity to speak to either young people or to the retired population or any group, we just feel a tremendous surge of support that's not evident in many parts of the country, but it's really overwhelming, the support that we feel here. And we have the opportunity to speak to lots of young groups. I know the skipper can attest to this, and we try to inspire young men and women to pursue careers in the armed forces, in the military, and hopefully they choose the Navy, and hopefully they choose naval aviation. But we try to, by example, try to inspire them to serve their country in whatever capacity that they see fit. So if we could set a good example and inspire some sense of service and obligation in the young people, then I think that we're doing all right.
I'd like to add to that. And
All right, I was going to ask you, do you have any young people on the base training, junior cadets?
We do, and I was going to mention our Sea Cadet program, our
good.
Naval Sea Cadet program,
Yes.
which is, from what I understand, and of course I see it myself, but is one of the best programs in the country. As a matter of fact, one of our young men was selected as the Sea Cadet of the Year nationally.
How wonderful.
So that program alone, made up of from the junior high to the high school level person, both young men and women, are coming to the base once a month and spending all weekend there and doing their drilling and getting involved with our activities. And we're really proud of them because they do such a fantastic job.
How are they recruited?
They're recruited out of the schools, and they recruit by their reputation. And I think the group is probably over, there are 2 groups, and I think they're probably about 100 strong at this point. So it's, yeah, I think that's a great example of that interface with those children.
For the young people that may be watching our show, I'd like for you to explain how much time that would entail per week or per hour, or give us a little bit better overview of the Sea Cadet. I think that might be one of the best mentor programs that we could beat the drum for on this show.
It's a 1 weekend a month. I believe they come in on Saturday morning, and they spend all day Saturday. They wear their uniforms.
They have uniforms.
They wear uniforms, and then they spend the night, and then they go at it again on Sunday. They do the drilling. They attend classes. They get involved in some of our functions at the base in the maintenance area, working on equipment, that type of thing, and then they go home Sunday afternoon.
Do they pay tuition to be able to do this? What's the financial arrangement for
There are some costs, Ruthie, but I think they're minimal. Most of it is transportation and getting to and from the area, from their home to and from the base. And most of their costs at the base are paid for.
Like their uniforms, etc.?
Yes. Now, they may have to spend, I'm not sure about the money for uniforms, but most of their activities, once they get on board the base, are provided by the Navy or by the Navy League, which is an organization that supports them and actually supports the base too. Most of the uniforms, I think, are provided to them, but the costs, I think, are minimal to participate in the program.
Now, you've mentioned the Sea Cadets. From your point of view, I want to know if you've been a particular mentor to others. Is there anyone you've adopted to just, other than your 2 sons, and you bombed out on one of them? He's gone to LSU, but I think you're batting 50-50. I think that's wonderful. Are there others that you've encouraged and been a mentor for?
Oh, there probably are, Ruthie. There are numerous young men and women that I've associated with over the last 10 or 15, 20 years, working individually with them or as a group, different functions. To name one, I probably couldn't do it today, but I'm really proud of my son too for him deciding to go into naval aviation and kind of follow in my footsteps.
Yes, Scott's special, isn't he? Because he's going to be an aviator.
He is. He really is.
You have also another outreach that you failed to mention. I know that as the commanding officer of Navy Dallas, you've adopted the wrong elementary school. You adopted Crockett Elementary instead of my school of Fannin, but we're going to try to cure that when we get the next CEO on board. But would you like to talk about would you like to talk about Crockett?
Well, Crockett has been a special part of our community outreach program and working with that school. It's a special relationship. I feel sad in my own heart because I have not been able to give very much of my time with all of the activities involved with our relocation and closure and things. But I do know that our men and women who are going out there on a routine basis once or twice or more a week have made a definite impact in the lives of those children who need a great example or need instruction. The teachers can't do without them. They've become a part of the school program, and it's just it's a wonderful thing for me to see in that outreach that our people are wanting to do that and wanting to get involved with the community to help.
Are you getting ready for the Western Days Parade that's coming up during this week on the coming Saturday, I believe May the 21st? Or is Navy Dallas involved in that? Do you have any floats or anything in the parade?
Well, I know that I'm going to be in the parade.
You're going to? I was hoping I could confirm that.
Yes.
That's good.
I'm going to be riding in the parade, and And perhaps our Sea Cadets will be marching their colors in the parade. And I don't know if we have a float. Maybe the XO knows if we have.
Yeah, we're going to talk to him about his part in the parade in a minute. But we wanted to get you on tape that you're going to be in the parade.
We're definitely going to be in the parade, and I'm looking forward to it. I had a great time last year in the parade.
That's great. All right. Commander Bill Garrett, how about your activities in this community? And I know I'm talking about Arlington, but you're located in Arlington, and are you involved in their schools and in the PTA and et cetera as a part of your outreach from Navy Dallas?
Oh, yes, ma'am. And this is one of the other real positive benefits of this part of the country. The involvement in the family, of course, the support of the family unit is very strong. And my wife and I are proud to participate in the PTAs we have both high school, junior high school, and elementary school going now. So we'll be in the mode of 3 schools for a while yet to come. So, but we divide our time between that and the little leagues and the typical things that most parents do.
And she runs a taxi for the boys and the girls.
Well, she's my wife Bibi is a teacher at Meacham Junior High in East Fort Worth. So she has several.
That's double jeopardy,
that's
isn't
right.
it?
She has several dozen adopted kids of her own there. So, but we try to stay as involved as we can and try to support our kids as most parents do in this part of the country.
And we have a couple of 3 minutes left, and I'd like to reserve that for you, Captain Miller. I'd like for you to look out into your camera and just say something nice about having been a part of the Armed Forces and the special salute for Armed Forces Day that we're doing on this program for May 21. And we'd like for you to end the show with a real special encouragement, because we know that y'all are out on the edge every time the president decides he's going to attack something else or whatever. And tell us what you feel about Armed Forces.
Well, I think that those of us, Bill and myself, who have dedicated our lives and careers to being in the military, there are many of us out there who have found this something that we love to do, and probably because we love our country and we think that it's very special to maintain that country, and we're doing what we can to enable our country to continue as it is, to protect those freedoms that all of us enjoy and have become accustomed to, and we've taken that on as our lives. And there are a lot of military people out there just like us who feel the same way and are doing the very same things. But we appreciate the special support that we receive from this community in particular, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I think that I can speak for Bill and our whole base. Really supports the military through many, many different organizations. The Dallas Military Ball, and their reception of us moving over there. The folks and the special folks like you, Ruthie, in the Grand Prairie area who really have become part of our family. And that was one of my goals when I first came in, was to make the community part of our military family. And I think that we have.
Wonderful. It's been an honor to be an honorary commander just this year. I want to thank you for that.
Thank you for participating.
Thank you for this
Ruthie.
wonderful interview as a salute to Armed Forces Day. I couldn't have had 2 better young men on the set today. And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and